Hi, this is Yulia and you're watching my channel, Rebels and Revolutions. Last time, we laid out some foundation under the enormous transformation of Italian society during the first quarter of the 20th century, focusing on the key person in this revolution, Benito Mussolini. Today, we will dig much deeper in the roots of this mysterious transformation of an entire nation, from the ultra-left on the political spectrum to the ultra-right. Though spectrum implies a continuum, a line of sorts, I think the movement from left to right is more like traveling along a circle. While in Switzerland, Benito spoke on every meeting of socialist revolutionaries all over the country, and he began to be noticed by all sorts of revolutionary leaders, among which was a Russian-Ukrainian revolutionary superstar, Angelika Balabanova. Angelika was a typical representative of her class, a child of a wealthy landowner with a guilty conscience, who was determined to liberate Russian and Ukrainian peasants from the clutches of poverty and their landlords, only to deliver them into the far deadlier clutches of Joseph Stalin. To be sure, Stalin did liberate millions of peasants, starving them, working them to death in labor camps, or just shooting them outright. As a side note, in 1917, on the onset of the Russian Revolution, Balabanova traveled to Russia and was appointed as a key assistant of one of the leaders of the Soviet Communist Party, Grigory Zinoviev. She found him to be a despicable man and became disillusioned with the Bolsheviks, returning to Italy unharmed. But let's go back to Switzerland. At the time, Mussolini was actively published in various socialist newspapers, exhibiting his famous straight-to-the-point style that captivated his audience. And in every forceful writer, there lurks a potential dictator. Thus far, we saw a revolutionary extremist who took Europe by storm with his brilliant oratory and writing. So here is the most important question. What was responsible for his 180-degree turn from the extreme left to the extreme right? In other words, what produced that revolution of one? If we find the answer to this question, we might be able to explain the broader forces that pushed Italy into subsequent madness. I believe that the first step in this transformation was Mussolini's decision to return to Italy in 1904 to join the army. He served for 21 months, enjoying army camaraderie while realizing that the man must learn how to obey before he can learn how to command. Many of his comrades would later join him in his political ascension. After being discharged, Mussolini continued his socialist political activity, but something had already transformed in him, and more was to come. In 1909, he was invited by his socialist comrades in Trentino. Trentino and Trieste were among the few Italian territories that were not liberated from the rule of Austria-Hungary after the War of 1866. Mussolini was invited to become an editor of L'Avenir dell'Autor in Trent. But there was a problem. Every good socialist loves and supports his socialist brothers and sisters in all countries. In Trentino, this was easier said than done, since Italian socialists mildly disliked the Austrian socialists, regarding them as invaders. Austrians, in turn, had no love for Italians, who wanted Trentino to secede at the first available opportunity. And once again, Mussolini faced a tough choice. Is he Italian, or is he first and foremost a socialist? In Trent, he had to walk that fine line, and while in his articles, he continued to spew the standard socialist propaganda, I believe there, in Trentino, the transformation of Benito Mussolini and his revolution of one had advanced even more. Mussolini fell under the spell of the Russian revolutionary leader, Vladimir Ilyich Lenin, who argued that no matter how hard the proletariat tries to sabotage the existing regimes, it will never be able to take the power away from the ruling classes, unless the workers are guided by the professional revolutionary elites. Benito loved this idea so much that he began developing his own version of such an elite, calling it the Gerarchia. While Mussolini never got the chance to implement this idea as a socialist, he did it on the opposite end of the political spectrum with frightening precision just a few years later. I find it a bit ironic that the man who was able to unite rather different right-leaning movements in Italy was himself a committed socialist. Let's recap the main reasons for this nearly miraculous personal and political transformation of Benito Mussolini. I would say, first, there was his conflicting time in Trentino, his military service, and his political meandering. I have yet to mention the most important reason for this revolution of one. Mussolini did not like picking battles that he could not win. He equally disliked going against the grain of the masses. He was ready and eager to lead, but he only wanted to lead in the direction that the people were prepared to move. In the month preceding the start of World War I, he sensed the change in the prevailing mood of the crowd. The old axioms of proletariat unity were thrown out the window, giving way to the nationalistic sentiment, with Austrian socialists refusing to support their Italian proletariat brothers who were clamoring for war. Mussolini was shaken by this betrayal and began advocating an idea of Italy joining the forces of the Triple Entente, justifying it by the supposedly progressive nature of this upcoming struggle, since the Jacobin France, constitutional England, and Risorgimento Italy will be fighting the old oppressive monarchies of Germany and Austro-Hungary. He did conveniently omit another key ally, Tsarist Russia, which in no way could be described as democratic or progressive. He was a million ideological miles away from the unity of the proletariat. In fact, he was getting ready to pick the battle of a lifetime. Let's continue in my next episode. Meantime, please like us, comment, and subscribe to my channel, Rebels and Revolutions. So long!